You are not anticipating that there will be sanctions as a result of your proposed purchase of the S-400s. That is not something that you think will happen.
Şu anda Amerika böyle bir yaptırıma girer mi, girmez mi onu bilemem.
Right now, whether the US would enter into such sanctions or not, I don't know. But there's only one thing I know. We're buying the products that I consider to be strategic, such as natural gas and petroleum from Russia. We can't cut off our ties with Russia in that respect. If we're allies with the US, we need solidarity, not sanctions. Are we not together in NATO at the moment? We are together. In that case, the US should not impose sanctions on us, but should lend support in solidarity. You will give support to terrorist organizations, but impose sanctions on Turkey. Can such a thing happen? You see, unfortunately, in northern Syria, 5,000 truckloads of weapons and ammunitions arrived. 2,000 cargo planes full of weapons and ammunitions arrived. Who brought these? The US. And I said this to them open and clear. And they said, we are taking down the serial numbers of all of these. After the war is over, we will collect them. We've seen this in Iraq before. You could not take them in Iraq. You did not. And they were left in the hands of the PKK. Later in the struggle there, we collected these, took them from the PKK. How are we going to reconcile these realities within our alliance? How could we be allies as such? We just want sincerity at this point. When there's sincerity, there's no issue.
Would you say you have a productive relationship with President Trump?
Şu ana kadar herhangi bir sıkıntı yaşamadık.
We haven't had a problem up until now. But that doesn't mean there aren't areas where our thoughts don't align. There are.
Can I talk about Halkbank for just a moment? There has been a conviction in the United States for that institution, which is state-owned, for helping defeat sanctions when it comes to Iran. I'd like to ask whether or not there are negotiations currently underway regarding a fine for Halkbank, and whether or not, were there to be a fine, whether or not that fine would be paid.
Şu anda tabii Halkbank'a çok büyük bir haksızlık yapılıyor.
Of course, right now, a great injustice is being done against Halkbank.
Suçlu değil. Hakan Atilla sürekli Amerika'ya gidip gelen,
Especially Hakan Atilla. He is in no way a criminal. Hakan Atilla is a friend of ours who's been regularly visiting the US and has been detained in his last or his 6th visit without any crime existing.
olamaz. Ve şu anda da ne yazık ki
There should be no such injustice. At the moment, unfortunately, he is there in detention. He remains in custody waiting for his fate.
mahkemeler farklı bir şekilde şu anda
The courts are continuing in a different way, and I don't know what result will come out of this. There is a judicial procedure, and the lawyers of Halkbank especially are following this judicial process.
Halkbankamızın avukatları vesaire bunları takip ediyor.
I hope it doesn't yield a result that will completely destroy Turkish-US relations.
Yer ile yeksan etmeyecek bir netice çıkar.
You talk about it being an injustice. If it is an injustice, would you, as a country, be prepared to pay a fine around it? You talk about it being an injustice. If you believe that, will you pay a fine? And if you will pay, I'm just curious to know whether or not that fine gets paid ultimately.
Tabii şu anda netice ortaya çıkmadan bir şey söylemek yanlış olur.
Of course, at the moment, it would be wrong to say something before the result comes out. Let's see the result first.
Suçsuzdur. Dolayısıyla biz onun beraatini bekliyoruz.
But Hakan Atilla is definitely innocent. So we want his acquittal because there's no crime existing. There is no crime they are able to allege. It's not something acceptable to accuse such a person with crimes. Also, if Hakan Atilla is going to be declared a criminal,
Eğer suçlu olarak ilan edilecek olursa
that would almost be equivalent to declaring the Turkish Republic a criminal.
ilan etmek anlamına gelir.
Sorry to dwell on the point, but if that is your point and the Turkish state were to be declared a criminal, would the Turkish state be prepared to pay the fine?
Şu anda tabii
Of course. It's not possible to say anything before seeing the result that will come out. Let the result appear first. After the result, of course, our bank will do what the law requires them to do.